It's Wednesday, that means it's DeFi time. Let's take a look at some charts. I had a request last week to look at the BTC pairs for these charts. So that is what I will be focusing on today. Much less rosy than the USD pairs. Alternatively, you could look at the ETH pairs as well, because for the most part you're selling ETH to purchase many of these coins, so it's worth paying attention to those pairs as well. Looking at dominance, which isn't really tradable, just kind of a weather vane of what's going on. There is a bearish 5200 cross on the daily here. It's setting itself up for a head and shoulders. Just general weakness / neutrality on Bitcoin dominance. Not that that matters or means anything, considering the reality is Bitcoin dominance is close to 100% if you take out most of the garbage in the ecosystem. So although Bitcoin isn't necessarily majorly outperforming many of these altcoins collectively, it's certainly outperforming much of the DeFi stuff that I'm looking at in this video. Here's the DeFi Purp Index. It's always good to take a look at indices if you are focused on a certain sector, if you're focused on proof of work coins, if you're focused on proof of stake coins. Look at those collectively, see how they're doing, see if there are any over or underperformers, pop on some trend metrics and just do a quick scan of everything. You can also do this through screeners on TradingView, but if we look at the DeFi Purp Index, you can see we had a bearish divergence, which I probably mentioned last week, higher highs in price, lower highs in RSI, and this wasn't necessarily a consolidation, it was more of a toppy signal. If you're looking for consolidation, you want to see a really tight range, basically, just price going nowhere over multiple weeks. And I would, it's fair to call this a consolidation, but it's more of a bearish consolidation. Some sort of messy head and shoulders. This is going to be messy because it's an index anyway, but overall bearish. I'd expect a retest of the 200-day moving average or the 200 period moving average at some point for this indice. I wouldn't necessarily expect higher highs. This is the DeFi Purp Index divided by BTC USD, and on TradingView in the ticker box you can turn anything into a formula, so you can divide anything by anything. And this, again, much like the BTC dominance, is nonsensical, not necessarily tradable, but if we just look at the 10,000 foot view of indice divided by BTC USD, we get a pretty good picture of the general outlook for most of the charts I'm about to show. They popped way up in late January and then lost much of their steam over the past few weeks in February. Some of these are going to look like a falling wedge, which is sort of what this is showing. Some of these are just going to look super sell-off ugly, and some will look intermediate sideways, but none of them, barring one, Serum, actually looks decently bullish. DOT looks okay too, but I'll get to that more when I get to those coins. 4-hour Uni Perp, this is the top 100 coins on Uniswap. Again, you have your consolidation, you had your bullish 5200 cross before that, and now we're finally retesting the 200 for the first time since January 11th. On January 11th, that was an insanely good buy. Really good bounce there. You had an Adam and Eve here if you zoom in, a V and a U. I don't necessarily see that yet for these lows. It's certainly possible. You have your Adam left, as it's called, the V. The V setup is there. The perfect, if you're talking like the best of the best, the creme de la creme of a chart pattern, if you get an Adam and an Eve, so if we get a U here on the 200 with a 5200 bear cross and then a 5200 bull cross, that is what I'm looking for if you're looking for anything. If you can get a bear bull cross on these major high time frame EMAs on this, then DeFi is good to go. It's blasting off another 10x. But that is probably 2 weeks out. This is a 4-hour chart. We'll know in 2 weeks how bullish or bearish these consolidations are. Here's Link BTC, looks very sad, below the 200-day moving average. This isn't really a buy here. There's no bullish pattern. There's no bullish anything. It is on the last legs of the pitchfork extensions. You can see previously it was holding pretty tightly to this median line, bouncing several times above and below, bouncing on the 200 several times. Then it painted this really nasty head and shoulders that did what head and shoulders do and broke to the downside. So I would expect some sort of revisit of these lows, but there's no bullish divergence here. There's nothing to tell me that the bottom is over just yet. There's no massive supports other than revisiting this low at 40,000 sats or whatever that is. AAVE BTC. Now most charts on the trend metrics that I'm going to look at kind of look like this. Again, like that Purp Index. If your massive pop up and just your straight down Eiffel Tower, Burj Khalifa type thing. So I'd expect a retest of the 200. I'd expect a retest of the previous all-time high. I'd expect us to go below the cloud. I expect all the cloud settings to reset. So this is the daily. Super powerful signals here because you're also doubling the cloud settings. So it's technically the 2-day settings. So tons of data capture here. Super high time frame, especially for DeFi stuff. So I'd expect the 200 period to retest. I'd expect all the cloud settings to reset, like I said, which is actually a great thing because then the entry signals become much more clear. If you get a bullish Kumo breakout with a push above the 200-day moving average, that is what you're looking for going into Q2. So it's probably going to take all of March to figure this out as far as is this going to be bullish continuation or not for AAVE. Another thing to pay attention to is Eth Fees. I did a video on that for BNC earlier this week, but if fees continue to just be crippling, it's pricing people out of the market. It's really that simple. And all of DeFi is just going to suffer because if less people are able to participate on aggregate, then prices are not going to stay where they are. They just aren't. I mean, you need the new money to support prices. You need activity. You need ongoing sustained momentum. And that's just not going to happen if ETH fees are what they are. All right, that's enough for AAVE. Uni Btc, this one looks actually decent, more neutral to bullish, above the 4-hour cloud, above the 200 period moving average. If this resolves bullish continuation, I'd expect a move to 80,000 sats, somewhere between the 1618 and the 2 measured move. For any of these charts, if you have a high and a low, just add the fibs. The fibs tell you what to do. If we break the highs here, we're going up here. So it's that simple. SNX, this is like the fate of AAVE. It's about to be below the cloud, about to be below the 200 period moving average. Again, everything's going to reset. This is the long entry you're looking for. This is the gamble knife catch that I don't personally like trading, right? I'm a trend trader. If it's below trend metrics, I don't trade it. This is exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for multi-week consolidation. From February to June, price was just flat in this box. After June into July, above the 200, above the cloud. I say it in every article. I say it on every chart that makes sense. That's exactly what you're looking for. Same thing here, except this time it was an edge-to-edge move through the cloud. So you're either going to see a bullish Kumo breakout or you're going to see a move through a massive sized cloud. For SNX into Q2, I'd expect more of this situation as far as the bullish Kumo breakout. So definitely not a buy. An ugly M double top on higher time frames. Just a no for me. This is UMA BTC and a comically gross pump and dump sort of situation. Looks like algorithmic selling to me based on this tight channel. And it's the same story. Trend metrics are bearish. I'm not touching it. You can have fun catching knives. That's not for me. There's no bull div here even yet. What I'd want is a lower low in price and a higher low in RSI. Now, if this was painting 3 lows with 3 higher RSIs, then I'd say, yeah, that looks like a decent buy. But it's below the cloud, below the 200. No, this is going to be an edge-to-edge trade when it happens. The reversal on UMA is going to look like the reversal on SNX in January. But right now, that is a no from me, dog. If anything, maybe a knife stab into whatever that is, 320. I don't know. Trading always cuts off the zeros, but yeah, that's definitely a no for me. Wi-Fi looks ugly. Collectively, the entire thing is a massive descending triangle, which has a bearish bias. It's revisiting lows over and over again. It's making these, I always forget if this is convex or concave, but it's making these half circles over and over and over again. Eventually, that just falls out the bottom. I mean, that's the way it works. Volume is lower and lower and lower on each low. I'd expect some sort of consolidation support in here unless we get a massive volume spike. If we get a volume spike that's basically bigger than November 2020 to the downside, that's what you want to see for capitulation. If we don't get a capitulation, it's just going to keep melting. That's just how it is. Again, below the 200, below the cloud. Previously it had this really clean head and shoulders that broke down violently. So because of the USD price for Wi-Fi and because of the low float or the low circulating supply, I kind of do expect this to get rather violent rather quickly, because if there's any whales who are holding this and who are fed up with price, they're just going to spam that red button, that sell button. It's just not going to hold up. So the 0.5 to 0.7 zone, if that doesn't hold, it's revisiting the all-time low, the open, whatever you want to consider this as, at 0.3 for sure. Comp BTC, bearish, neutral, below cloud. Again, you're just waiting for all this to reset. This is the 12-hour. Give it some time. Put a TradingView alert on stuff like this on the cloud signals. Put an alert on price above or below the cloud, and just walk away, set and forget it, because this is going to just chop you up if you're trying to trade this on a day-to-day basis. Again, a head and shoulders pattern that broke down. Volume was there as well. So that is a no-go for me. Ren, it's very spiky, very violent, very volatile. Although, even that being said, it is bullish because it's above the 200, above the daily cloud. So this looks better than most of the stuff I'm looking at today on the BTC pairs. I still wouldn't touch it just because it's all over the place. The sector as a whole is just selling off right now. So it's hard to be bullish on a single thing unless you think Ren is like going to change the world or something. Serum, probably the most bullish looking chart out of everything here. Look at this volume on the pop up here. So even before this volume pop, you had bullish trend metrics leading into February, really. So this is unlike really any other chart right now, because it had this violent consolidation throughout February and then popped up over the past few days. As far as resistances to the upside, I'd be looking at all these volume nodes here, and I'd be looking at monthly pivots. Support, I'd be looking at the volume node here, and then just basically, Eiffel Towering back down to that previous consolidation zone. This isn't a buy for me here because it's, what is this? Basically a 2x over the past couple days, but trend-wise it does look really good. Algo BTC, neutral, bearish, below VPVR, below 200, inside a cloud. Just a mess. It's historically been below the 200 period moving average for most of its life, below the cloud for most of its life. When I see stuff like that on the daily chart, it isn't giving me confidence that it's going to outperform BTC over the long term. So this is definitely a avoid for me. Ban BTC below the cloud since late 2020, below the 200 since late 2020. So until it's above both, which could very well happen in Q2, into April, when everything looks bullish again, it's worth revisiting all of this stuff on the trend metrics, because when they trend, it trends hard, right? Right now, it's not having a good time. Band and all of DeFi is just getting clobbered. So I like this 34K sat level over the next few weeks, but it's definitely not anything I jump into at the moment. DOT BTC also looks rather bullish on the 4-hour, holding up quite nicely above the cloud, above the 200. Whether or not you consider this DeFi, is another thing. If everything in the sector is bearish and DOT isn't DeFi, then maybe DOT is more bullish than everything else. I don't know. But it looks fine. It looks fine for continuation, honestly, to new all-time highs. Lots of volume here since these lows. Lots of interest, lots of eyeballs in general looking at DOT. So decent bullish chart, especially in amongst the company that I'm looking at today. Kava, again, you shouldn't need me to tell you this looks very different than this, right? This looks very bearish, below volume supports, below cloud, below 200 period moving average. But again, into April, don't write all this stuff off forever, because when this stuff trends, this is the exact breakout. Take a snapshot. Kink, this is the exact snapshot you're looking for. Going into April, May, June, Q2, when alts do well, that's when I look at this again on trend metrics. Sushi looks neutral to bearish. It looks less bearish than most other things. I like the potential for a falling wedge here into the 200 period moving average again. The confirmation, it would be a bullish Kumo breakout with bullish cloud settings, so kind of similar to early January type stuff. And for continuation, whatever this price is up here, just the 1618 and the measured move from the high to the low. But this would definitely be higher on my watch list than most everything else. BZRX, ugly chart. Below all volume support, below 200, below cloud, below monthly pivot. It's going to the lows. There's no question in my mind. No bull div just yet. Just no buying volume really to speak of. Looks ugly and nasty at the same time. 1 inch BTC on the 2 hour, so a lot can happen between now and next week, but again, below the 200, below the cloud. Not bullish. Very different picture than earlier in January. Really a good barometer for most of the DeFi DEX exchange tokens. Just they've peaked. They're going to need some time. There's some rotations going on. Revisit most of these in a couple weeks. And if you want to check out how we are trading this here at BNC and Technic Capital, you can pop on over to Enzyme.Finance. We will have a DeFi portfolio shortly that you can check up on and which trade we are moving towards, rotating towards. You can track all the trades here in the Trades tab. So that's all I have for this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and happy trading.